The number of times that I've relied on smart algorithms to think for me in the past few minutes alone is intriguing. From using facial recognition to log into my laptop, to my Teams microphone filtering out background noise, and Microsoft Word correcting my sentence grammar, AI is there to help think and act for me so I can present the best version of myself. Now, this isn't just for administrative tasks. AI is ubiquitous, be it in self-driving cars, healthcare, robotics, policy, and education. But perhaps more important than asking where is how these algorithms are being used. For an increasingly large number of algorithms, the answer to how is becoming eerily straightforward. Us. These algorithms are designed to help us make decisions by harnessing data from our behaviors and trends. They study us, muttering to themselves, Ria from account ID 98220 just purchased a colorful yoga mat. Based on her purchasing history, let's recommend these sparkly shoes. But everything is a data point from the IFAI and its creators, from how much time we spend on a page to the types of people that we are associating with. In this talk, I'm going to dive into 3 ways that AI is influencing us: the way we see the world world sees us, and perhaps most importantly, the way we see ourselves. I'm then going to talk about what we should be doing to understand and improve ourselves in the age of algorithms. Let's start with the first way AI influences us. AI is a content creator, and the quality of the outputs that smart algorithms are generating just keeps getting better. Today, there's a lot of concern surrounding algorithms being used this way to manipulate and deceive us. And one of these techniques is known as deepfakes, where AI can simulate video and audio to make it seem like a presidential candidate or a celebrity said or did something in real life that they actually didn't do. For different types of social media sites and review sites as well can also be challenging here to figure out whether a bot or a human is behind a comment, like, or review. So the good news is that it is challenging, though, to figure out and get AI to generate high quality content. And it's easy for humans to recognize AI generated content now. Language models are writing about real life unicorns, and simulated faces and deepfakes have strange behaviors like blinking too much or being too smooth. Now, engineers are building AI to help recognize AI-generated content, but in the future, it's not going to be feasible to constantly reevaluate pieces of information from our environment. We may be able to fact-check fake news, but how do we verify the existence of an AI-generated image of a human being when the creators of that AI model aren't willing to tell us? Secondly, if you've ever used a social media site that has advertising, or Netflix, Amazon, or any service that's telling you this is what you want before you make an actual effort to go and find it, you've seen a recommender system in action. There's an interesting term from the field of behavioral economics called a nudge, which is used to define indirect suggestions like these that motivate us to make certain decisions. But just like how push comes to shove, nudges turn into hypernudges when big data and AI comes into the picture. There are positive advantages, though, to AI helping us make decisions, leading to empowered human actors and value co-creation. Think of AI giving you a suggestion for a reply for a text in the middle of a busy day. But recommender systems are created by naturally biased humans. There are different types of biases, from gender and racial stereotypes to behavioral biases, such as confirmation bias, where we have a tendency to seek out information that is affirming our own belief and ignoring contrary perspectives. With this in mind, personalization and AI algorithms are designed to learn from us, and they can keep perpetuating these types of biases back to us as filter bubbles. New research is showing that recommender systems could help users break out of these filter bubbles and be more explorative with product choices, but these systems are still encouraging similar preferences across the user base. On the topic of bias, it is also argued that over-reliance on AI can lead us to lose critical thinking capabilities, the final point on how AI is influencing ourselves. AI has become an extension of our persona. It's exemplifying and expanding on our own thought processes, often without needing our effort. And again, a simple example of this is when you're buying a product. We could buy sparkly shoes based on that earlier yoga mat purchase because that AI recommender system tells us it did all the analysis. It's certainly easier for AI to think for us like this and tell us what we want before we try to search for it. Here, AI is adding to that decision-making process for weighing the pros and cons of that product. I've talked about the ways AI can influence us, but now let's turn to what are some of the solutions to combat blind faith in algorithms. Circling back, we know that it's challenging to constantly reevaluate pieces of information from our environment, so maybe we should start there. For me, this is where it starts to become a dilemma, because as an engineer, I like to measure things and have a concrete definition. But while researchers have proposed metrics for, understanding user welfare and beliefs, it's still all very tentative. Identifying how AI can influence us and how we can analyze this with some sort of risk management framework is quite challenging. With that, I'd like to propose that we can draw on two overarching strategies from psychology for analytical judgment and methods. These strategies have been tried and tested in high-stakes decision-making scenarios and can be applicable here. Let's dive into a competing hypotheses analysis first. In his book, Psychology of Intelligence Analysis, Richard Hewer describes some interesting ideas for training ourselves with resiliency and critical thinking skills in dynamically changing environments. As part of this, the first step here is to identify the hypotheses. As an example, detecting if a video is a deepfake or not. What is the evidence and arguments for or against each hypothesis? The video is of an influential person making political comments. A few issues that can be caught are the person's eye color suddenly changing. The video is circulating in major news and social media sites with a lot of buzz around what was said in the video, but not released through official sources. We know that deepfakes often require a combination of talented and extensive human effort in AI, so they may not be that easy to produce as well. So given all that information, we would then want to create and refine a matrix to analyze the helpfulness of this evidence. Conspiracy theories from those social media sites and news sites that aren't substantiated aren't helpful because they're commenting on irrelevant details and not helping with that evidence. Now, the glitches seem to be important to pay attention to because they're directly supporting the hypothesis of a video being a deepfake, so they have diagnostic value. Also, we want to attempt to disprove the hypotheses and the evidences. So let's say there really wasn't a person who would say that in real life, or the presidential candidate or the celebrity. It just seems wrong. How would this influence our conclusion? Questioning why this person would say that is important. And there might be factors other than AI influencing this person's outreach as well that we can start to identify as part of that exercise. We would then conclude with future observation, indicating events are taking a different course than what we initially expected and keeping an eye on that. Now, another interesting domain that I'd like to talk about that we can draw from is psychological warfare. Now, I don't mean to say that we look at this as a warfare between human and AI, but between humans and the thought processes that others are trying to impose through AI. The objective is to understand the impact of persuasive communications on changing or reinforcing attitudes. Some questions to ask are whether the message is that's being presented is obvious propaganda, if the messaging influences to act in a way that's favorable to the message's sponsor, and whether aspects of the message make us irritable. Smart algorithms can propose decisions, but AI doesn't go ahead and take this decision for us. So it's a question of us reasoning and being alert to how we are being influenced by these algorithms in our decision making. A vital note is that our feelings and emotions play an integral role in the perception and evaluation of the recommendations that AI is providing. I'm going to now conclude with a few wise insights from a philosophical perspective in addressing the question, what do we mean by alertness? The goal here is to focus on thought inertia through a nudge, to be alert that the future decision to buy sparkly shoes is being recommended right now by AI based on that previous yoga mat purchase. Essentially, we're starting to reason to combat thought inertia by being alert. And what we're finding is critical thinking isn't just about judging information, but also judging the way it affects our behavior and detecting our behavioral patterns in the past, present, and future situations. AI is vital, and we are responsible for pushing the boundaries of computer science and thinking about the implications of our innovation. This talk is just scratching the surface of what it means to have a relationship between humans and algorithms and serves to spark a meaningful discussion on what's next to be forward and brilliant in the age of algorithms. Thank you.